Okay, see, this is where it's hard when I can't tell if anybody's going to jump in.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I'm one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Ash Laser Farbacina.
Hi, y'all.
And Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
Each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get our perspective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all that information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are you reviewing tonight?
So, Gene, I've discussed it multiple times before that if there was a Mount Rushmore of Shat the Movies and Shat on TV listeners, our commissioner tonight, Steve W., would probably be one of the bigger heads on the left-hand side. He has been with us for multiple years, commissioned probably 15 movies, and some are good, some are bad, and we've been a little hard on him sometimes. So I think tonight he picked out a movie that he was convinced that we were going to love, so we were excited to go back to the 60s and do Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, the 1999 American spy comedy.
Well, thanks, Steve, so much for your commission. Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, is a spy comedy directed by Jay Roach. It is the second installment of the Austin Powers film series after International Man of Mystery. It stars franchise co-producer and writer Mike Myers as Austin Powers, Dr. Evil, and Fat Bastard. The film also stars Heather Graham, Michael York, Robert Wagner, Seth Green, and Elizabeth Hurley. It centers on Dr. Evil returning again from cryostasis to strike at Powers from the past using a time machine to remove Powers' mojo. The most commercially successful movie in the Austin Powers series, the film grossed around $312 million in worldwide ticket sales, taking more money during its opening weekend than the entire box office proceeds of its predecessor. It is followed by the third installment, Austin Powers in Goldmember. So Big D, Ash, we always ask where you were and what your memories are of the movie we're covering. Tonight, it's Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Ash, let's start with you.
There was definitely a time when I was obsessed with all things Mike Myers. I loved Wayne's World, which we've talked about previously on this pod. And then this movie came along. Well, actually, really, the first one came along. And I remember I really, really loved it. I probably watched that first one like 100 times. And then the sequel came out, and my friends and I, we all went and saw this opening weekend. I was 16, and it was just a lot of fun. It was something that was like a group activity in a way that I think movies are when you're a teenager. And it was just great. And for me, Mike Myers, his films are like incredibly quotable. We talked about that a little bit on like So I Married an Axe Murderer. Certainly you guys talked about it on Wayne's World. And from Austin Powers, especially from this one, I think that there are tons of really quotable lines that kind of became like our language for the next year. And so I was really, really excited that Steve selected this one because I don't know about y'all, but in trilogies, for some reason, I always like the middle movie, the second one. I think Two Towers is the best movie. I think Aliens is the best movie. Godfather Part 2, and now Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me is certainly my favorite of the three.
Ash, you mentioned seeing this as a group outing, and that's definitely how I saw movies in the 90s as well, especially big ones like this. And either I've slipped out of the mainstream movie-going habits or the world has changed, because I remember distinctly in the 90s, movies like Austin Powers, it was just required viewing for everyone. It wasn't a question of will you go see it, but rather like which theater and with which friend group you would go with. I'm pretty sure I saw this one with my college friends in Tempe, and I thought it was hilarious back in the day.
Oh, Gene and I had the exact same experience. I remember you would get the group of friends, 10, 12 people, sneak in drinks. You would make it an evening. Then you'd talk about the movie afterwards. That doesn't happen anymore, sadly. And this, for me, also was a must-see opening weekend. I've seen all three of them. But watching this now, I realize I could not break down any of the other movie plots. Even after this, I could not tell you what happens in the first one. The third one, Goldmember, I just remember Beyonce played a kind of really cringy, foxy Cleopatra. And of course, you had Mike Myers playing more and more characters, and Goldmember being like, it's gold. But other than that, the movies were enjoyed in the moment, but sadly disappeared with the time.
I mean, it doesn't help that they use the same villain 2 movies in a row. That really kind of fucks you up because it's hard to keep track. You're like, wait, which one was this Dr. Evil one? Oh, both of them.
Yeah, I don't even. What happens in the first one? What was
he fucking come out of cryostasis? I mean, it's the same fucking movie.
Okay, good. So Elizabeth Hurley, the secret agent, probably training him. Is that what it was?
I just remember she was wearing that silver outfit.
Yeah, it's just like the comedy of like, oh no, he's woken up and he's out of time, literally, right? Like, that's the point of the first one. And this one's like, oh no, he's back in his own time, but he's now out of time in his own time too.
Without his mojo. Oh.
His mojo.
Well, to help us remember which movie it is we're covering, let's hit the trailer.
Do you swing?
Are you kidding, baby? I put the gar in swinger, baby, yeah!
Austin Powers
Crazy, baby, yeah!
is back
Yeah, baby, yeah!
with the help of the beautiful Felicity Shagwell.
How does that feel, baby?
Lower.
How does that feel, baby?
In a thrilling adventure of intrigue, treachery, love. But Dr. Evil is back, and more evil than ever.
Gonna cry, huh? Oh, yeah. I'm going to go back to the 60s and steal Austin Powers' mojo. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to travel through time. I bid you adieu.
A bombshell with a secret. Robin Swallows.
Swallows. That's an interesting name.
Maiden name Spitz.
Well, which is it, baby? Spits or swallows?
Dr. Evil, we began a program to clone you. He is exactly like you in every way. 1/8 your size.
I shall call him Mini-Me.
Mini-Me. Something small, something deadly. Mike Myers. Mike Myers.
What are you, some kind of freak? You mother...
Heather Graham.
Move over, Rover. This chick is taking over.
And Mike Myers.
Surprise! Surprise!
In the biggest Austin Powers adventure yet. Austin Powers, the spy who shagged me.
Great plan, Einstein. All right, zip it. You can't... Zip. It's simple. Subtitle. Zip it. Found... This... You know...
In 1999, British spy Austin Powers enjoys his honeymoon with his wife, Vanessa Kensington. But Vanessa turns out to be a fembot controlled by Dr. Evil and tries to kill Powers. Austin grieves briefly before realizing he's single again. A NATO monitoring facility observes the return of Dr. Evil from space, who confronts his son Scott and starts a coup on the Jerry Springer show. At Dr. Evil's lair in Seattle, he is presented with a 1/8 size clone of himself, whom he names Mini-Me. Mike Myers obviously starred this movie. We said he was insufferable in So I Married an Axe Murderer because he couldn't lean on the crutch of playing an alter ego the whole time. And I remember us saying, oh, but when he does get to play characters, he's so funny. We were wrong. Mike Myers is nearly as annoying as Austin Powers. He's either going to bully you into laughing by just hitting you over the head with a joke until you laugh, or he's going to get you to laugh out of sympathy. unlike So I Married an Axe Murderer, the wacky world of Austin Powers at the very least gives us loads of sight gags to distract us from the fact that Mike Myers, he's not very funny.
100%. This was the part that bummed me out the most from watching this movie, is that Austin himself is just really not that funny. His jokes aren't funny. Mike Myers as him is not that funny. It's the stuff around him that's really funny in this movie. Because I'm not trying to say this movie isn't funny, but it isn't funny because of Mike Myers as Austin Powers. And in actuality, like, Austin's kind of lame.
These movies, and we were really critical. I feel like So I Married an Axe Murderer opened my eyes to who Mike Myers was. Like it woke me up from my sleep, from my psychosis of this group belief that he was a talented comedian, because he's got a set playbook. Okay. He's got his moves that he's going to do, including let's play a fat Scotsman. That is So I Married an Axe Murderer. Check. Let's have our exaggerated laugh at our own joke and break the fourth wall. That's So I Married an Axe Murderer in the beginning. The cappuccino. Whoa! He looks at us. It's ridiculous. The product placements from Wayne's World. You got Virgin Atlantic, Heineken, Starbucks, the Chili's Baby Back Rib song, even though it's quite catchy and it gets stuck in your head. It's all paint by numbers, but none of it feels original. This is not opening weekend must-see movie for me. But the movie does not seem that funny. I was expecting the comedy to be on a next level to where you'd leave and talk to your friends about it. And I know I'm on a podcast with a toilet paper roll logo and a shit scoring system. So I know I'm not one to talk. But I do feel comfortable saying that I was surprised that the jokes, they felt unimaginative. They felt juvenile. It felt like kids had wrote some of the jokes. And two prime examples. Okay, if we get the opening Austin dance number through the hotel where his penis is going to be, conveniently covered, which I believe he did this. Mm-hmm. He probably did it in the first movie. Again, I don't remember, but I remember him doing it before, where every item in subsequent, it becomes more and more ridiculous. It's a woman with a mirror. It's two Jewish guys, cutting looks like a bris or something. It's just not funny. And not only is it not funny, but it just goes on and on and on and on. And they have this idea that, hey, if it was funny once, let's do it 5 times. That's going to be 5 times funnier. And it doesn't. It's not funny. And they even do it again at the end of the movie.
I got to disagree here, Big D. The opening scenes in Austin Powers movies are absolutely legendary. They're so cleverly choreographed. There's so much to look at, so much activity. I really enjoyed the opener.
I think all of us are fans of like that George Carlin skit where he goes through and names all of the, names for various appendages. And this for me is like the physical embodiment of that. I mean, I was cracking up laughing, especially when it's like Woody and it's like Woody Harrelson. They got pretty clever with that part. And anytime I can see Ron Howard's brother, just randomly with those big eyes, like staring at a dick-shaped spaceship. I mean, it was funny.
Really, was it worth 2 different scenes bookending the movie?
Yes.
And clever? Colonel, what is that, son? I don't know, sir. It looks like a giant dick. Yeah. Ooh, that's a giant skateboard. Oh my God, that's a huge pecker. Oh, to me, it was funny the first couple times, but you bring it back again and it just feels like you're beating a dead horse.
Well, before we go off and call Michael Myers entirely unfunny, though, we got to talk about Dr. Evil, because Dr. Evil from Austin Powers International Mystery, and again in The Spy Who Shagged Me, he's the funniest thing about the movie. He's a perfect parody of Blofeld, who is the infamous James Bond arch-nemesis, and seeing him interact in non-James Bondy environments was the best part of this movie. That Jerry Springer scene when he wanted to throw hands, it made me so happy. And he's so good in this role specifically. You got to give him credit for it. It's just the rest of it that doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, just down to the way he dresses and he's like slightly bloated all the time. I mean, this guy is hilarious. And in 1999, he was funny. And in 2022, Dr. Evil holds up tremendously well. And in fact, in some ways, I think he may be funnier now than he was back then. But I think this also is due to the way people around him interact with him, because we've got Rob Lowe as young number 2, who is so good. You've got Frau, who is hilarious. Hookups. You've got, Seth Green. And Seth Green does not get enough credit, I don't think, for these movies, but he is so funny whenever he is interacting with Dr. Evil. And you see that perfectly in this Jerry Springer scene. That exchange would not have worked without Seth Green. And I think a lot of why this movie is elevated is because they expand his role and his interactions with Dr. Evil, and they just play off each other really well.
It's the quiet moments. Scotty wants to be loved. He just wants to have his dad acknowledge him. And the dismissive nature of Dr. Evil. The relationship works. And I couldn't find myself but thinking and feeling that they knew, the producers of the movie knew, hey, that really works. That's the heart of the movie. How can we amplify that? Because to me, that's the only reason you bring in Mini-Me. Yeah, you get some of the little, he's biting the dick jokes, and you get the little half pint humor. But you wanted to add that conflict between father and son. So, of course, you make a clone. But I think Mini-Me just does not hold a candle to Scotty. And in the scenes where they do battle, I find some of them funny, where Scott feels threatened. But it only Scott's kind of his insecurity and his delivery of the lines is what saves the scenes for me.
When I look back on photos of myself from 7th to 9th grade, and I wonder what the fuck was I thinking? Why was I trying to look like that? Why did I ever think it looked good? It's because of Seth Green. He actually made the 90s kid clothing look kind of cool. It's weird.
I don't know. I'll never forgive him for being Oz and abandoning Willow and Buffy. I have a hard time watching him.
I don't want to spoil anything, but he was going through some stuff.
I mean, come on.
Well, number 2 reveals their company has purchased Starbucks, but Dr. Evil nonetheless unveils his latest plan. He has developed a time machine to go back to the 1960s and steal Austin's mojo. Dr. Evil and Mini-Me travel to 1969 and meet a younger number 2 and Frau Farbacina. Fat Bastard extracts Austin's mojo from his frozen body at the Ministry of Defense. During a photo shoot, the wanton Ivana Humpalot seduces present-day Austin, but at the last moment claims he is too sexy to kill. They have sex, and he discovers he has lost his mojo and is impotent.
So funny enough, when this movie came out, I was no longer a virgin. I had lost my virginity, so I had had sex a few times. But even having sex, I knew very little about it. And I had no idea really what impotence was, the inability for people to get it up. I did not understand. And so I was so confused. I remember watching this movie about this idea that all of a sudden Austin couldn't have sex. And I distinctly remember convincing myself that the mojo was his desire, not an actual inability. And so upon rewatch, I was laughing at myself, remembering how little I knew back then because I was having sex with other 16 and 17-year-olds who could get it up. But then I started thinking about the logistics of this, right? This is a pretty fucking weird plan that Dr. Evil has here. He has Fat Bastard go in and he drills a little hole in, and then he injects a needle into his dick and then pulls out shit that looks like the inside of a lava lamp. It's pretty dumb. And you would think that they would castrate him or I don't know, shoot him. It makes no sense at all.
Well, I feel like Mike Myers wanted to have that prop made. That naked copy of himself with the hairy chest. He has that somewhere in one of his homes. That's the only reason you make it. It's lazy. But I let it go because Scotty thankfully calls it out. He says, it's ridiculous. Go back and kill him. Kill him while he's in the toilet. It's stupid. And I don't know that I can complain or call the movie dumb because it worked. It got my money. The trilogy made $676 million gross box worldwide. That speaks for itself. It worked. Maybe this net of comedy they cast out there caught a lot of fish because it was successful. And the other thing I like, and you hit on it, is the names. Obviously, Bond had the nicknames or the female characters, the Bond girls that were sexualized. And these are so dumb, but I do smile every time I hear Felicity Shagwell or Ivana Humpalot or Robin Swallows. They're all so simple, but so funny. In this movie, I could not find myself, but tying myself to the seat in 99. It feels very 99. They tried to pull every popular subject from that small window of time. The Jerry Springer show was huge. AOL emails still existed. They just merged with Time Warner. They were so big that they tried to buy Facebook and YouTube. The cool time traveling Beetle, of course, that was just released in 98. You know, you got that stupid song, the Chili song, I Want My Baby Back Ribs. This felt like a very, very specific time. They even go into Jerry Maguire, the Academy Award winning film, which came out, I think it was a year or two before this, the Show Me the Money and You Had Me at Hello. Movies a lot of times can feel like a 90s movie or an 80s movie, but Austin feels very, very 1999.
This might be one of the greatest cases of unintended genius because they made a movie series about the obsolescence of an era, which immunized it from becoming dated. Like every part that's so specifically 99 feels like a tiny memory hug. Like everything that you just mentioned, I'm like, oh, I remember that. Like when the new Beetle came out, we were all fucking excited about it. There wasn't a single person on the planet.
Oh, we were jazzed.
Like, oh, it's got a flower holder. Whoa, you know? And I started thinking about it, and it made me hurt a little bit because in the 90s, we had a concept of the past and we had a concept of new. Like we would think back, oh, the 60s were so cool and brighter days are ahead with all the things, all the new things we're inventing. Now with the internet, everything is just in fucking stasis. Like the past won't die. It's just always here. And the future never feels all that exciting. When's the last time you thought, oh, that future thing sounds exciting?
I would argue the problem with that is the future's too fucking terrifying for it to be exciting. Like, I feel like in 99, because we didn't have so much social media, we didn't know just how shitty a lot of like things were. Because if you think about now, like, my God, we recover from one thing and then it's like, oh, by the way, they've unearthed a zombie virus in Russia. You know, I mean, the world feels like it's going to end every second now. And it did not feel like that in 1999.
Oh, no, it might not have felt that way, but the world was the same. It's like when Vanessa says the world now is so violent. We're the same violent fucking people we've always been. There's always been murders, always been shooting, always been people doing crazy stuff. But now you hear about it on social media. So maybe back then, Gene, I want to jump through my time portal and be a little more oblivious and be excited at this new version of the Beetle.
Well, speaking of time portals, Austin travels back to 1969 and arrives at a party in his London pad. With the assistance of CIA agent Felicity Shagwell, Austin escapes an assassination attempt by Dr. Evil's operatives. Mustafa, another of Dr. Evil's henchmen, reveals the existence of Dr. Evil's volcano lair before Mini-Mes shoots him with a dart, causing him to fall off a cliff. Examining photographs, Austin identifies Fat Bastard as the mojo thief. Dr. Evil drinks Austin's mojo and has sex with Frau Farbacina. Frau reveals she is pregnant before Scott, Dr. Evil's son, arrives through the time portal. Dr. Evil announces his latest plan to hold the world ransom by threatening to destroy cities using a laser on the moon.
So this movie does a great job of making me reminisce about the great music of the 60s. I mean, as a kid of the 80s, it seems like everybody enjoys the music like 20 years before it's their time. So as an 80s kid, everybody's like, oh, the 60s rock. They had those hey, is that 60s rock? Turn it up, where you could buy the cassette set of all the great music from the 60s. You know, in the 2000s, everybody loved the 80s. And the movie, it's making me reminisce. It's got the great hits, and they tie it with these groovy dance number transitions, but they don't exist in Bond. To me, this just felt like it was an excuse. Let's get some bright 60s color fashion. Let's get Austin dancing around. Let's play some music. It felt very filler to me. Am I the only one who's thinking this?
Fucking Big D. This sounded like an excuse to have fun.
No, that's not what
I know.
It was.
No, it's worse than that. Was James Bond didn't do this.
It just felt gratuitous.
Fucking, of course he didn't do this. I think these dance sequences are awesome. They're some of my favorite parts. And I mean, just the music alone, and they're so bizarre. I mean, I think they're great.
Yeah, man, it's the 60s. Celebrate that shit. From the moment I saw Quadrophenia and followed it back another decade to discover mod culture, I've worshipped the 1960s as the epitome of chic. Like, if you look at my wardrobe, if you look at my personal taste, the mid-century modern home aesthetic aesthetic, slim fit clothing, sport coats, motorcycles, cars, those designs, like they're timeless. And of course, The Spy Who Shagged Me is a Disney version of the 60s. It wasn't exactly like that, especially not in the UK. I mean, people were lucky to have their own bathtub, but goddamn, it looks like so much fun. And what made it even more fun is I'd always assumed that Austin was out of place because he was in the 90s. There was a bit of anachronism there. They take him back into the 60s, his home era, and he's just as awkward there, which adds to the laughs.
Yeah, and that's what is so great about the juxtaposition in this movie of Dr. Evil, because Dr. Evil actually gets to have like the sexiest of the sex scenes in this film, which I think is hilarious. And you get the sex scene between he and Fra, and he drinks this drink from Austin. And I want to just go on record here of stating that means that he consciously has drank something that like he knows has come out of Austin's like ball sack, right? But he drinks it and it makes him all sexy. And just the way that they choreograph the two of them together, them like wagging their tongues at each other, like it is so incredibly funny. And it is those layers of jokes that I think are smart that like the rest of this movie in a lot of places don't have. And again, why? Because Mike Myers is interacting with a really funny comedian, because the woman who plays Frau is absolutely hilarious. And I think this is like the standout moment of the whole fucking film.
I've been going to a lot of holiday parties lately, and I'll see people like in their 40s and 50s, couples, you know, and then I try to think of how they initiate sex with one another. The degree of imagination it took to get these two together and to imagine what that scene would be like and then to execute on it is brilliant. And then they take that added layer of the awkwardness of workplace hookups. Like, it's like, you know, let's not make it weird. And
it's so good.
Listen, kids, the workplace hookup, it will always make it weird. Fucking a friend will always make it weird. My gym is basically like a matchmaking machine, and like 70% of those couples don't work out. It's always weird. Just accept that it's going to be weird, or don't do it in the first place.
Well, Gene, do you think it's a little extra weird because you're actually like grappling with each other? To grapple with somebody who you had sex, it's almost inherently making it more weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
don't do it, kids. Don't do it.
I think that's terrible advice, because I think there's this whole thing where we have to like normalize the fact that that's where people are going to hook up, especially the workplace thing. Like this whole idea that like, oh, people who work together aren't going to hook up. Here's the thing. People who work together are always going to hook up, especially if they work super long hours together. So I say go do it, kids, but just accept that, yes, it will be very weird if it doesn't work out.
Yeah. And if you bring, let's say, a friend to a coworker, and then that friend sends dick pics to your coworker.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that would really be a bad thing to do, which is what Roger Roper did to me. I invited him to a Christmas party, tried to hook him up with a coworker who was a VP of marketing. And about 2 weeks later, she pulls me aside and says, "Can you please tell Roger to not text me anymore?" I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "He texted me this," and shows me Roger's genitals. I called Roger and said, "Are you kidding me? You could get me fired." He didn't understand the severity of it, but to this day, I am reminded of that simple life lesson, kids. Do not send dick pics to a friend's coworkers.
You want to give that bad boy wipe score?
Oh, it's like a Mike Myers movie. It's paint by numbers, kind of disappointing and
slightly average and leans to the left.
Yeah, it gives you good laughs in certain moments. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Well, as the Shat The Movies resident brown guy, I need to make a statement here, especially for the audience that accuses us of constantly being PC. I want to go on the record as saying Mustafa is funny. It's Will Ferrell in brown face playing up Middle Eastern assassin tropes while having this stupid rule that he must answer any question truthfully if you ask him 3 times because he gets so annoyed by it. And it is a great throwback to the first Austin Powers movie when Mustafa just wouldn't die. I don't know if you guys remember, he got like dunked into the fire pit and he's just down there and he's still talking and he just won't die. I fucking love this character and I'm so glad they brought him back.
I'm so glad that we have permission still to laugh, because he is one of my favorite parts of this movie. You're talking about the first one, like when he's down there, he's like, "I am very badly injured." Like, I mean, it's so good. And I'll be
that Fez.
And I'll be totally honest, I forgot this was Will Ferrell. Like, I remember Mustafa as a character, but I had forgotten that this is like, early, like I just left SNL Will Ferrell.
I just found myself wanting more because you see Will Ferrell, you immediately perk up. And like you said, Ashley, some of his off-screen lines, they steal the entire movie. The I'm hurt badly, but then he goes on, oh, I'm going to try to stand up, snaps. And he's like, oh, it's gangrene. It smells like almonds. Do you have a Band-Aid? Will Ferrell, even off-screen, without seeing him, is funny. And I just wish we'd gotten more.
Yeah, could you imagine if the roles were reversed and it was Mike Myers playing Mustafa? He'd be like, smells of almonds. Anyone have a Band-Aid?
Behave.
Well, Felicity seduces fat bastard and has sex with him, allowing her to plant a homing device in his anus. I'm not saying they should have switched characters. What the fuck? Why would he be saying behave?
That's a good point. I'm just at limbo.
Well, Felicity seduces fat bastard and has sex with him, allowing her to plant a homing device in his anus. Fat bastard forces it out of his bowels, but a stool sample reveals traces of a vegetable that only grows on one Caribbean island. Austin and Felicity arrive on the island and are captured, but Felicity overcomes the guard with her breasts. Dr. Evil and Mini-Me leave for the moon, pursued by Austin and Felicity on Apollo 11. Austin battles with Mini-Me, eventually flushing him into space. As Austin confronts Dr. Evil gives him a choice: save the world or Felicity, who is locked in a chamber with poison gas. Austin saves the world, but Felicity dies. We've already jointly seen Heather Graham full on naked in Boogie Nights. And I thought that was pretty fucking hot. Early in the movie. I should stipulate, early in Boogie Nights, pretty hot. But Roller Girl has nothing on Felicity Shagwell. She is so unfairly hot. She had me asking, like, Liz who? And she somehow made having the hots for Mike Myers almost believable, which we've seen other actors fail at doing. And oddly, I really like the quasi-feminist side plot of her fucking fat bastard because that's part of the job. Like, it was a near table turn on Austin, who's always fucking people because he's an international man of mystery.
Yeah, she looks amazing. I think, like, watching her in like those denim like 1960s onesies, like even on like the poster for the movie, like she looks good in this movie. She's made for the 60s, like immensely, 60s and 70s. But I'll be honest, I felt like her acting fell a little flat in this. I didn't buy that she would love Austin at all because he's gross, but I mean, she looked great.
I mean, I think she felt like a hostage. She felt like it was in this movie because she had to be, because she knew it was going to be big. But I think there's a couple times I talked about with Gene before we record about Burt Bacharach and even Elvis Costello, that the cameos seem forced. They seem very, very rigid. Like they're like, shit, okay, I got to be in this. It's going to be a huge movie. I can't look at her and sexualize her the way I used to and the way I want to, frankly. I see Roller Girl. I see the damaged Jade in The Hangover. I'm looking at her and I'm like, oh, you poor. I just want to hug her. I want to nurse her back to health. She's like a sick bird. She's a hot sick bird, a hot damaged sick bird.
What was the movie? It was like Adrift in Manhattan or something like that, where the dude's like banging her doggy style and then she asks him to hit her and he's like hitting her until she starts crying and then she goes into the fetal position. That was the one that did it for me. But oddly enough, Spy Who Shagged Me brought me right back.
Pulled you back in. You tried to get out.
All needs some go-go boots and a headband. I'm in.
It pulled you back in, yeah.
I want to talk about Fat Bastard, who you mentioned just a second ago that she fucks, which is insane because I think he's disgusting. I think Fat Bastard is where Austin Power goes immensely wrong. And let me make very clear, it has nothing to do with him being fat. Like, that's fine. Like, I don't want to fat shame anybody, but I have just a problem with the character. I think he's really, really gross. And I think that this is one of the things that you can see as an example of like how Mike Myers starts to go wrong in this time period, because he's this major, like huge extension of Mike Myers, like just being allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants to do. He's like been given carte blanche. He can do whatever he wants because they say, well, it'll be funny and it'll sell tickets. but it just isn't true. Like Dr. Evil works because he's ridiculous and he's a satire of something that we have like a reference for. But Fat Bastard, he's not. I don't think he's funny. I don't think he adds anything at all to the movie. And I didn't like him, just so the people out there that are about to give me a 1-star, like, well, you're a revisionist. I didn't like him in 99. I thought he was gross, and I did not enjoy any of the times he was on screen. So that's how I feel about it. But I still hated him today in 2022. Absolute worst part of the movie for me.
So I think if Gene can be the voice of the brown people, that I can be the voice of the obese.
I'll allow it.
I think I'm going to stand. I'm going to speak for my people.
Jesus Christ!
And Fat Bastard made me laugh. I have laughed every time you guys have said Fat Bastard. I'm just laughing. The sex scenes, they're gross because he's greasy and like it's just the glistening like oil on his chest, and he's chewing on that drumstick, and it's disgusting. But Fat Bastard, when he's in the quieter moments and he's having some reflection and he's got the emotional breakdown at the end and he confesses. And he makes a confession that all obese and fat people have made to themselves at one point in their life. He is speaking truth. I eat because I'm unhappy, and I'm unhappy because I eat. It is a vicious cycle. Now I'm going to excuse myself. There's somebody I have to go get in touch with and forgive myself. This is a truth as someone who has battled it my entire life, and someone right now I'm having success, but I will always be that fat guy. He didn't just make him a joke. He layered on some of the background pain
Oh my God.
that an obese person goes through. What? I'm telling you. What? I knew it. He was speaking to me.
I think you're giving him a lot of credit.
Well, no, I think this was a multi-layered character who just, I think he spoke to me, and he's helped me get through a life change.
The factor that really made Fat Bastard for me was his little costumes and his makeup, because he had like monogrammed everything. He had like a Fat Bastard shirt, his kilt,
the hat,
the fucking the bagpipes that like shoot out smoke that knocks people out. Like, it was just a very clever character, and he seemed like a partner to the Loch Ness Monster, right? Just another thing that roams the hills of the Highlands and like eats babies. Like, I thought he was fantastic.
But the fact also that he's supposed to be the covert agent. He is the agent that you send in to blend in with the other guards, or to be a FedEx driver, or to be that's what makes it.
Now, Ash pointed out that Fat Bastard was the low point of the movie for her. For me, it was Dr. Evil rapping with Mini-Me, just the two of us thing. Like, the Mini-Me gag is lame as is. It wore itself out early in the movie, other than the way it counters off of Scotty Evil. But then you throw in that awful cadence of white guy movie rapping, and you guys know what I'm talking about. And the whole thing gets super uncomfortable. I cringed the whole time they were performing this. And in the 90s, it didn't feel as gross. But now this whole song within the movie comes off as a really unfortunate joke with a whiff of cultural appropriation.
Yeah, I feel dumb because I still fucking loved this scene. I thought it was funny. I don't know, maybe it's just remembering it from when I was a teenager, but I thought it was pretty hilarious still.
Yeah, I think I'm with Ash. I think it's the ridiculous nature of the scene. And you got to remember, Gene, that's revisionist. That we're now going back and saying, okay, it's inappropriate. But at the time, this shit was loved. I remember this was used to promote the movie. This got an MTV Movie Award for Best Song with Mike Myers and Vin Troyer. It was a big thing that everybody loved. They thought it was funny just to see, again, Dr. Evil in a situation like the Jerry Springer Show, or to see him where he would never be.
I'm not saying it's inappropriate necessarily. It's more the fact that this joke just kept getting used in the 90s. I mean, Adam Sandler was doing it too. It's like the joke is, look who's rapping now. It's a white person you wouldn't expect to rap. It's an old lady. It's Dr. Evil. And then also just, giving Mini-Me nothing to do but kind of like half-heartedly wave his arms around and go, ee.
Well, he was credited as part of the duo there. He would have gotten an award if they had won it, but they didn't. But the fact that he doesn't sing, Mini-Me, very, very agile. I thought the fight scenes were great. I couldn't help myself but wonder, how many Mini-Mes could I take at once? Now, I'm not trained like you are, Gene, but I feel confident that I could fight off 20 of them easily, as long as they started their attack from like 15 feet away. I would try to pick up one maybe by the feet and use him as a weapon to maybe spin around melee style and to knock a couple of them out at a time. But do you think you could handle like 20 of this scenario?
Okay, so many thoughts right now. One, this is not X-Men or The Simpsons, the arcade game. You don't pick people up and swing them around as a defense. Two, Big D, I appreciate that you consider me a martial arts expert, but buddy, you are a fucking giant. You will always fare better in situations, particularly if you're being attacked by 20 mini-mes. As a Kravist, I generally train to defend against people who are bigger than me, like you, or armed. And occasionally we do some pretty exotic shit. Like sometimes we'll do grenade defenses. You're like, well, this will come in handy if somebody walks into the house with a grenade. But the best defense against mini-mes, like the best defense against most things, is fucking run away. If I was cornered, I imagine kicks would be my friends, not swinging them around. But Mini-Me has demonstrated he's got a pretty serious bite. I think 20 is very optimistic for me. I might get away with like 4, maybe 5.
Oh, you're selling yourself short. I try to think of myself as one of the giants in Game of Thrones when the whites are attacking,
like the mountain.
Yes, and they're swarming and they're attacking, and I think it would be fun to try. I don't know if that's right or not, but the movie again. As it's going well, we go to an area that I'm complaining about again. I'm going to be that old guy, is the childish humor. Things we've seen before. We're going to see the silhouette on the tent as they're invading the island. And it's telegraphed. You can tell. Mike Myers is on his hands and knees. You got Heather Graham. Shagwell is up behind him. They're going to go through the bag. Immediately as the agents come up, the gag is going to be, it looks like she's pulling things out of his ass. It works. The initial surprise of the guards with the rope. Okay. They then cut to internal scenes of the volcano base 3 or 4 times, cut back to gas canisters, to gerbils. It's ridiculous. And to me, it felt like they were just grasping at things to fill up screen time, because I didn't laugh. Did any of you laugh after the first iteration of the joke?
Yeah, this kind of humor works at a shadow cast of Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's about as far as it goes. Yeah, Big D, I had a chuckle at the beginning. It turned into a sigh and then nearly tears at the end as I was just waiting for the scene to end.
Agreed. It went on way too long. When she starts hammering the tennis racket, that's when it's like, okay.
Yeah, just do the one where she's reaching her arm in. That was enough for me. Just reach in there. That looks real. I didn't need the gerbil, the rope, the fucking every possible thing under the sun.
As Mike Myers would say, check, please. Austin uses the time machine to travel 10 minutes into the past, meeting up with himself and saving the world and Felicity. Dr. Evil escapes after throwing Austin's mojo into the air. When both Austins fail to catch it, it is destroyed. Felicity points out that all the things Austin has done show that he never lost his mojo. They escape through the time portal to 1999. At Austin's pad, Fat Bastard makes another attempt to assassinate Austin, but Felicity disarms him. In 1969, Dr. Evil recovers Mini-Me from space and vows revenge. On the Jerry Springer Show, Scott learns he is the love child of Dr. Evil and Frau Farbacina. Austin returns to his pad to discover Felicity with the past Austin, who claims that since he and Austin are the same person, it is not cheating.
One thing I love about these movies is the way they play with some of these traditional movie tropes. So you get the idea that whoever wrote them really, really studied the James Bond films, especially the earlier Bond films, and just generally other action films, because there are some smart moments here or there. And it's in those moments for me that the film actually is kind of genius in terms of comedy, because you get the whole part here where the floor is moving out from underneath them and it looks like they're going to fall into the lava, and it's just moving so stupidly slow that they could cross over at any point, and then he finally does step over, shows that it's not really that big of a thing, and then somehow that bumbling guy falls in and like burns to death.
Mama,
I had to keep wondering, like, is this other people in the writing team room that are like helping Mike Myers make the comedy funnier? Because I just didn't buy at this point that Mike Myers was the funny guy that maybe we thought he was in the earlier 90s.
We might not be giving Mike Myers enough credit, though, at least for the spy parody ideas, because as far as credited writers on the script go, for this one and Goldmember, he worked with Michael McCullers, who he worked with on SNL. McCullers wrote a lot of SNL in the 90s. McCullers' other works are absolute trash fires. I have a hard time believing he contributed anything genius to this movie. He did the 2008 comedy Baby Mama, starring Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, which was garbage. 2017's The Boss Baby. I certainly haven't seen that one. Did you guys see that one?
Oh, yes, I have.
It's actually really cute.
That's the original one. It's Alec Baldwin plays a baby who is secretly an adult running a major corporation.
Is it cute if you don't have a child?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Having a child is required.
And then, of course, in 2018, he was responsible for Hotel Transylvania 3, Summer Vacation. and Michael McCullers' next project, I'm not making this up, he will be on the writing team for Shrek 5. Shrek 5. I think Mike Myers saved this movie.
Yeah, he's going back to the well. Surprise, surprise, Mike Myers. Shrek 6, anybody?
I gave up after Shrek 2.
Does he still do the voice for Shrek?
Yeah, Mike Myers
Of
is
course
Shrek.
he does. He has to.
Jesus Christ. That's so
you gotta
sad.
cash your paycheck, son.
That's so sad.
Hello. Yeah, that's what it's Mike Myers' thing.
Now is the time we give our wipe scores for Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Zero Wipes is a perfect movie. It is traveling through time in a groovy 1999 new Beetle. And 5 Wipes is an absolute disaster movie. It is discovering your job description includes sleeping with a fat bastard and inserting a homing device into his asshole. Big D, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me?
So I think one of the biggest differences when you become an adult or you become older is you're able to shorten the time between making a decision and realizing you were wrong. Okay. So when you're young, you make a decision and it takes you maybe a couple weeks to start to feel guilty. You maybe hurt somebody, you did something that you're not proud of. Within the length of this podcast, I have gone from hating Mike Myers and being really angry at him on a personal level, which makes no sense, other than his laugh bothering me, to letting it affect me. And then as you two are sometimes glowing praise upon his comedic timing, his writing, his other films, trying to give this movie credit for the parody of the genre and James Bond, I started to realize maybe I was being the old angry man. I originally was going to say this is 2.5 wipes, that this is average, and my exact comment was going to be, I wondered before if I hated Mike Myers. Now I'm confident I hate everyone except for Wayne Campbell. But you guys made me realize I'm being too critical, too old curmudgeoned on the porch. So I don't want to feel guilty about this. I think it is better than I originally gave it credit for. At the time, like just the two of us, it was funny. Today, I think it's, I was going to go 2.5. I will go 2 wipes.
All right, that's 2 wipes for Big D. I will say, Big D, if you want to have your faith in Mike Myers restored, see Amsterdam. He's very funny in Amsterdam. I went with the King Bee for his birthday to see it and really, really enjoyed him. The movie itself, not terrific, not bad, but Mike Myers is fucking hilarious in it. Small roles. That's what you need him in, small roles. I'm going to go 2 wipes as well on this one. This is a worthy sequel to International Man of Mystery, and I didn't regret watching it. The side characters, as Ash mentioned, Scotty Evil, Mustafa, Fat Bastard, Felicity Shagwell, Dr. Evil, even the Frau, they're wonderfully entertaining. I just sometimes can't stand Mike Myers' delivering. I think we started to discover that in So I Married an Axe Murderer. He's so self-satisfied that sometimes you think he's laughing at his own jokes more than you are, which you shouldn't be because you had to pay for the fucking ticket. This is an above average movie, but just barely 2 wipes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's not so much that like he's laughing at his own jokes as much as it is that he thinks that he's so funny that it would be ridiculous if we don't laugh alongside him. And I just don't know if I buy that he's always that funny. And this is one of the situations too where it just becomes such a bummer because I don't know if you guys have followed a lot about these stories about Mike Myers and how he's got his little box of chocolates on set and how absolutely difficult he is to work with. And I can like see all of that while watching this movie. I can see how like insufferable he probably is to be around. But that aside, I still laughed a lot in this movie. I thought it was really fun. I think it holds up really well. I don't think it's some genius comedy that's like better than some of the others we've looked at, but I do think it's better than average. And I think that this is where Mike Myers peaked and has just kind of all been downhill into kind of nothingness since then. So for me, just like the two of you, I'm going with a above average score of 2 wipes.
And Ash, as you talked about that, I think I realize why I have such a negative image of Mike Myers. I always picture his previous roles through the lens of the love guru. Ooh. When he's doing his characters, I can see it. It makes me cringe emotionally. My memory almost corrodes and degrades in front of me. So I went from loving it to then again being like, oh, the love guru.
Yeah.
So, Gene, I'm going to give Amsterdam a try because I want to rekindle my love and go back to the time where I thought Mike Myers was funny, and maybe small doses and one single role per film is the way to go.
Well, that's going to be 2 wipes across the board for Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Well, Gene, with 2 wipes, that now ties this in the 130 spot with, just some movies that are just across the board. So it's some strange bedfellows, to say the least. Tombstone, Beverly Hills Cop, The Blues Brothers, Pet Sematary, Tommy Boy, Johnny Dangerously, If Looks Could Kill, and 1995's Kids.
That's so fucking bizarre.
These are all movies where if I was hungover on the couch, Ash walked in, she's like, hey, you want to watch insert name of movie? Kids? I would give him 1 thumb up and go, man, yeah, maybe not Kids, but the rest of them.
Yeah, Kids hungover sounds horrible.
No. Yeah. And that's the end of Shat The Movies.
Yes.
Well, Steve, I hope you are happy with that wipe score. I hope it doesn't bring your average wipe score of your combined commissions that you're so proud of down too far. We appreciate you commissioning as always. We have a couple voicemails that came in over the past few weeks, and we'd like to get to those now. The first one will be Jude with a call about Terminator 2.
Hey, so it's, I've been listening to this podcast for, I think like years now. I was introduced to it by my grandpa, and I love this podcast. I always come back to it.
Grandpa.
I think my favorite episode has to be the Terminator 2 episode, because I love that movie. And I listened to that episode so many times that I could probably write an entire script of what you guys all say. I love that episode. In fact, I'm actually about to listen to it right now. So yeah, I just wanted to do this because I thought it'd be kind of cool to just say hi, and I love your guys' content, and keep up the good work. So yeah.
Grandpa.
His grandpa? Jesus.
Jude, please call back and tell us how old Grandpa is, please. Because my father is like late 70s. He cannot operate a podcast. So how old do we think Jude's grandfather is?
I mean, you got to remember, though, our podcast is on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's lots of different places. It doesn't have to be Apple Podcasts. But yeah, when Jude said he's been listening to us for years, I'm like, since you were 10?
Well, Jude could maybe have a young voice. But Jude, the one thing I always remember.
Because he sounds pretty young. So that's where the young voice comes from.
Yeah. Young people tend to have young voices.
But he's very polite. He seems like he hasn't been soured to the world yet. So I do. My one memory of Terminator 2 is the fact that I kept confidently calling him John O'Connor. And I was corrected by Roger, or you said it, Gene. I said, why is John O'Connor so pissed? And you're like, maybe because people keep calling him O'Connor.
Yeah, Jude, I appreciate you bringing that one up. I love when people point out past episodes and I can go back and listen to them and just kind of bring you. It takes you right back to where you were the week that we recorded it.
Yes.
And that's always a fond memory. And thank you so much for listening and for calling in. That means the world. Next up, we have a voicemail from Seth in Missouri who's calling about Mallrats.
Hey, what's up, Shat The Movies? My name is Seth. I live in Missouri. I just got into you guys, and I've been listening to you nonstop. I'm thinking about ordering a T-shirt. Yeah, that's because I want to support you guys. So basically, listen to you guys all the time, and it's great what you're doing. It's a lot of entertainment. So I wanted to ask you if you have done Mallrats. I just listened to Dogma, and you guys shat all over Kevin Smith so much. I just was like, man, come on. Except, no, it wasn't Big D. Big D didn't shat on Kevin Smith, did he? I don't know. Anyways, point being,
I hate him.
I'm going through your Shat movies when you shat on them. And also, yes, Uncle Buck, yeah, he should be cherished and honored. He's not a big fat buffoon like Big D said.
Yes.
So, yeah, man, get back to me. TLE79@gmail.com. It's T as in Tom, LE79 at gmail.com. I was thinking about commissioning Mallrats if you guys haven't done it. You know, but yeah, man, keep on, man. Also, you need to do Dazed and Confused. Well, shit, that's 2 that I need to commission. All right, hope to hear back from you. Thanks for all you do. Take care, all 3, 4. I don't know how many of you do this show at this point. I don't know. All right, take care.
We did Dazed and Confused, didn't we?
April 2021.
No.
Yeah,
you're right. I just totally.
I pulled that date out of thin air.
I thought I was having a seizure. I was like, did I? I feel like we did that. We did. So hey, there you go. You got a free commission.
And Mallrats has been commissioned. Yes.
No, I don't think it's on the schedule.
No, I don't think it's on the schedule.
So I love that movie.
Before anyone asks, also that's not Seth Rogen, even though it sounds exactly like him.
Oh yeah, and I Seth, I did shit on that movie. That I do not enjoy Kevin Smith, and I also did not enjoy the way that Roger enjoyed him, so that made me hate him even more. And I think that was one of our first recordings in person, if I'm not correct. We do that at Roger's house?
I think that's right. Yeah, we did Cable Guy,
and then that.
That's the one I walked out on, I think.
I believe that's the one where some words were said.
Yeah, some words were said.
Yeah, that was where somebody hit the timer and it started counting down to self-destruct.
On a lighter note, Seth, if you haven't ordered your shirt already, you can use the promo code SHAT on ship. If you go to shatpod.com/shop and go to our online store, you can use SHAT on ship for free shipping through Christmas.
And Seth, if you want to, just go to shatpod.com/support. It walks you through the process, but we give you a thumbs up on Mallrats.
And if you go to shatpod.com/movies, you can check our schedule, and it's searchable as well, so you can see what we've covered in the past. So they're all there. You can also see the rankings, how everything ranked. Big D does a great job on the website, so do check it out. All right, thanks to everybody who called in. Again, if you'd like to leave us a voicemail, just go to shatpod.com and use the SpeakPipe feature on any device. Leave us a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. Or you can always write us, host@shatthemovies.com, and we will read over your emails and hopefully get them on the podcast. Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week's film shines a light on a self-contained universe of the metal band struggling to get back on the charts, including everything from the complicated history of ups and downs, golden albums, name changes, and unsold concert dates. And this movie was released in 1984, directed by Rob Reiner, only made $4.7 million at the box office, but it is, I think, beloved to this day and remembered. And it was commissioned by our great listener, Scott H., repeat commissioner and friend of the podcast.
Well, thanks, Scott, for the upcoming commission. And thank you, Steve W., for commissioning Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. That concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat The Movies. Email us, host@shatthemovies.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. And again, your discount code for free shipping is SHAT on ship, and it's only good in the U.S. So UK and Australia listeners, I'm sorry. Also, you can check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all the information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D and Ash, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
Very delicate. It's a bit of a departure from the kind of thing you normally play. What do you call this? Well, this piece is called Lick My Love Pump.
This is the loudest,
Rock and roll!
most explosive band in heavy metal history. This is Spinal Tap.
It's such a fine line between stupid and clever.
The funniest movie ever made about rock and roll.
He choked on vomit. Well, they can't prove whose vomit it was.
The monumental classic.
There was a Stone Age monument on the stage that was in danger of being crushed by a dwarf.
The makeup of your audience seems to be young boys.
Well, it's a sexual thing, really.
We've got, armadillos in our trousers. I mean, it's really quite frightening.
No, don't.
I was just pointing at it.
Well, don't point. I'm sure I'd feel much worse if I weren't under such heavy sedation.
The cult phenomenon.
The numbers all go to 11.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
This is Spinal Tap.